tonight at 5 o'clock on Fox Sports. The World Series starts on Friday. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Tavis Smiley with a final word here about the upcoming Left Coast Forum on Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech. As you know by now, our major keynoters include Professor Richard Wolff and Dr. Cornel West. LA Mayor Karen Bass will be there as well. But listen to some of these plenaries: fighting for black students and educational equity, resilience under Trumpism, how to stay sane under fascism, the battle for democracy, what's at stake in 2026, healthcare under attack, fighting Trump's cuts, and building patient power from seed to system, building a local food economy in South LA, theater as a force for change, voices from Palestine. The Constitution is not self-reinforcing, racism on the left, building communities of care, federal changes and their impact on healthcare in LA County, Committee for the First Amendment, and more. The Left Coast Forum is brought to you by the LA Progressive, the Empowerment Congress, Community Coalition, Partnership for Growth LA, Southwest Voter Registration Education Project, LA Care Health Plan, United Teachers Los Angeles, Black Progressive Action Coalition, St. John's Community Health, the National Lawyers Guild, the Weingart Foundation, and more. Space is limited, so if I were you, I'd register right now at KBLA1580.com. That's KBLA1580.com. Your voice matters. Your presence matters. We'll see you there.
Keep it coming. Things ain't always so. But I'll be alright. As long as I can find the good. Yes, I will. Somehow I know that I can make it. Don't you worry. I won't be around. To say,
Live from historic Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley, and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit thetavisSmileyShow.com. That's thetavisSmileyShow.com, or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast version of this live program at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today. It's Monday, so it's Smiley and West at the top of hour 2. A few items to unpack with Dr. Cornel West today. When he joins us 1 hour from now. On the B side of hour 2, Emmy Award-winning director and cinematographer Kevin Shaw on his new documentary, One Golden Summer, which relives the 2014 championship season of Chicago's Jackie Robinson West Little League team, the first all-black team to win the Little League U.S. Championship. I remember that summer. Look forward to talking to Kevin Shaw on the backside of hour 2. In our third hour, a conversation with actor, director, and writer Roger Guinevere Smith about his new one in honor of Jean Basquiat. Roger comes in the studio today in our final hour. But in this first hour, pleased to welcome the Nation magazine's justice correspondent, Elie Mystal, to this program. Elie, how are you, sir?
I'm good. My kids and I are pulled out the telescope so we could track Shohei Ohtani's home run this weekend. It's still up there.
That was quite a game, wasn't it? Quite a game. I've been fascinated by all the comparisons and all the ways in which folks have tried to explain what that game was. Now, here's the real sad part for me. The sad part is that I had tickets Saturday night. I was going to game 5. So, so
You know,
yeah,
I'll just say this though. Tavis,
Yeah.
and then we can talk about real stuff. But
Yeah.
like, people keep comparing this man to Babe Ruth, and I feel like that's unfair to Otani.
Yeah.
Because Otani has to play against the best players in the world, and
Yeah.
Babe Ruth, frankly, didn't. Right?
Yeah.
Babe Ruth only had to play against white folks.
Yeah.
So Otani has to play against everybody, and he's beating everybody.
So for those of you who are not following the playoffs, or who are not baseball fans, what Ellie and I are laughing about getting into is a player named Shohei Ohtani for the Dodgers, who did something pretty remarkable. It was a game unlike any game ever in the history of baseball. So he hits 3 home runs, pitches 6 innings, strikes out 10 batters. That's all in one game. Now,
And gave up 2 hits.
Exactly.
He had more home runs than he gave up hits.
That is correct. And the thing that's funny about it for me is, with all due respect to Shohei, who I love dearly, obviously Dodger fan here in L.A., he had a pretty awful postseason until that game, though. Let's just keep it real now. He was not having a great. I mean, he had a great season. He wasn't having a great postseason until that game, but he stepped his game up in ways we can't even describe. Obviously,
It was amazing.
It was amazing. So anyway, that's Dodger stuff. So now Game 7 tonight between Seattle and Toronto. So we are waiting for who will challenge the Dodgers in the World Series this year. So it's either Seattle or Toronto. That game, and that's been a fascinating series as well. They forced the Game 7. Who do you like in that game tonight, Ellie?
I think Seattle's got to take it. It's the I don't think they can beat the Dodgers, but Seattle's had a great season. The Toronto's had a couple of brain farts. I think they'll catch up to them in Game 7.
Yep. One last piece on this, for those again who've not been following this, it wasn't just that the Dodgers swept the Milwaukee Brewers. It is that the Milwaukee Brewers had the best record in baseball this year. So they had the best record. The Dodgers sweep them in 4 games. They look at the moment unbeatable. I just hope, Ellie, as a Dodger fan, that they have not peaked too soon. That's my hope. They haven't peaked too soon. But right now, I'm with everybody else. They look absolutely unstoppable. And so we look forward to, again, this game tonight between Seattle and Toronto. Then we'll know who will be in the World Series this year. But the Dodgers are looking pretty amazing. The boys in blue are right about now. That is not why I asked Ellie on this program. I'm glad we got to that at the outset of the conversation, got that out of the way. But the Nation magazine, for which he is the Justice correspondent, he's a great author and podcaster and host in his own right. But the Nation, as I always tell Katrina and crew, are blessed to have him, this brilliant black man, as their Justice correspondent. And they have a feature story on the Nation's cover, the November story, November cover, I should say, titled "The Supreme Court versus Democracy." The Supreme Court versus democracy, and I want to spend the rest of the hour unpacking what it means to be living in an era where you could literally write a title, "The Supreme Court versus Democracy," not the Supreme Court upholding democracy. But you take my point. Elie Mystal for the hour when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
From Leimert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
Are you drowning in IRS tax debt?
With Civic Tax Relief, they were able to save me upwards of $80,000 that I would have had to pay had I not reached out to them.
Get ready for a toll-free hotline. Take advantage of new IRS tax forgiveness programs that may protect you from IRS collection agencies.
I owe the IRS $37,000.
They have the power to garnish your wages, put liens on your property, and levy your bank account. Civic Tax Relief can help protect you from the IRS.
Civic Tax Relief basically represented me against the IRS. By the time everything was completed, I didn't owe the IRS anything.
Find out about the Fresh Start program that is now available through Civic Tax Relief. Civic Tax Relief's special tax hotline can help you discover all the relief programs available for free.
I would recommend anyone who has a tax problem to contact Civic Tax Relief.
Just call 800-285-3500. 800-285-3500. Don't wait. Call now. 800-285-3500. 800-285-3500.
Let me tell you about this new pretzel cheddar club. Hey, I'm Carlos.
And I'm Ebony. And a little thing we love about the Chick-fil-A Pretzel Cheddar Club
is the tangy Dijon with the pretzel bun. It takes it to a whole nother level.
It goes perfectly with the chicken and the cheddar cheese and the bacon.
Man, you know how much you love bacon. And I love the different varieties. Grilled, spicy, original. It gets you nice and excited for fall.
Order the Pretzel Cheddar Club with Cherry Berry and Sprite for a limited time on the Chick-fil-A app. Real guests paid for their testimonials.
It's Cybersecurity Awareness Month. LifeLock is here with tips to help protect your identity. Use strong passwords, set up multi-factor authentication, report scams, and update your software. And for comprehensive identity protection, LifeLock is your best choice. LifeLock alerts you to suspicious uses of your personal information and fixes identity theft, guaranteed, or your money back. Start your protection today with a 30-day free trial at LifeLock.com. Use promo code NEWS. Terms apply.
Stuck in a job that just isn't getting it done? Maybe it's time to go for IT. Whether you're just starting out, switching careers, or a military veteran ready for change, My Computer Career can help you launch a rewarding career in IT in months. No prior experience needed. Why spend years getting a traditional degree when your future in IT can start right now? Take the free career evaluation at mycomputercareer.edu today. Your most powerful upgrade? Your career. Go for it. Go for IT. Financial aid is available to those who qualify, including VA benefits.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Correspondent Elie Mystal. Elie, before we get to the Supreme Court, one quick comment from a friend of mine listening right now in Milwaukee, who said what you and Elie did not say is that y'all got the highest payroll in baseball by far, 3 times that of the Brewers. Yeah, you swept this, but you're paying a whole lot of money. And when you got that much money, like a team in a small town like Milwaukee doesn't have, it's kind of hard to be competitive, Elie. So I'll give you the last response to that.
Yeah, I'm a Met fan, so I can tell you that money does not buy championships. Just leave it at that.
Yeah. Now I'll get messages from other people in New York City listening right now. Anyway, I'm getting off of baseball, and we're going to get to the U.S. Supreme Court. In case you've just tuned in, we were talking earlier about the baseball playoffs and the Dodgers and that amazing game with Shohei Ohtani the other night. And we are waiting for the winner of Seattle and Toronto to know who the World Series will be. And another thing I noticed, I was just reading this last night. No, this morning, as a matter of fact. So the ratings, Elie, I think I'm not surprised by this. But the ratings are up, like 15% this season. The baseball viewership ratings in the playoffs are way up. And I think the Dodgers have something to do with that. But so the
well, Tavis, and again, I don't want to keep talking about baseball, but like one of the reasons why I brought it up this morning is that I heard in your open you're talking to the man with the first part of the first black team to win the Little League World Series.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
And like baseball used to be a black sport.
Yep, that's right.
Baseball used to be an African American sport. And they've really lost that. If you see black players now, they're usually from a foreign country, Dominican Republic or
Caribbean.
Or what have you.
Yeah, exactly.
Like just American-born black players. It's a sport that our community has abandoned. I would also say that the sport has abandoned us.
That's right.
In some way. But I feel like I don't fully understand how baseball has lost so much popularity with African Americans. Compared to football and basketball, WNBA, you can go down the list. Baseball's like 6th.
Yeah.
In popularity within our community, and it's a huge change if you think about the kind of historically American things. That used to be our jam, and it's just not anymore.
You're onto something now. I've had this conversation with any number of great players. Dusty Baker was on this program not too long ago. Ozzie Smith was on this program. Not backflipping Ozzie Smith was on this program not long ago, and we've had some conversations about this, and some of that. Some of what you're pointing out now really does, in fact, connect in interesting ways to other realities of life in this country, certainly for black people. For example, you lack green spaces. It's hard to be baseball players, in urban centers when there are no green spaces. That's a whole nother conversation that takes us into climate and environment, et cetera, et cetera. But they lack green spaces in places where these black boys live. Number one, I was a baseball player. I grew up in Indiana, plenty of green space in Indiana, not so much in urban centers and urban areas, number one. But it also raises the issue of it raises the issue of recruitment. And to your point, they're in the Caribbean, they're in Central America, South America, looking for these players, not so much in inner cities. But there are a lot of issues to be raised here about the way, in fact, baseball was a black sport. And the other thing that we cannot forget, which you know full well, of all of the major league sports, baseball plays the most money. They pay the most money. By far, that's where the money is. So I ain't hating on you if you got a kid who's an athlete. You can push him into football. You can push him into basketball. But if you want to make some money, Shohei Ohtani's contract is $700 million. Now, everybody ain't Shohei Ohtani. But my point is that's a $700 million contract for one player over 10 years.
And
yeah,
and they pay money right out of high school. You
That's
don't
right.
have to go to college and be an indentured servant for 3 or 4 years before you get paid, right? Like
Yeah.
baseball will pay you right out of high school to go in the minor leagues, and you can start earning a paycheck. So it's it's you know, and I don't want to get into a whole football thing. It's safer. Let's just put it like that. It's safer
Yep.
for
Nope.
young brains
Yeah.
than some of the other things. So baseball has a lot of advantages on that. But as you say, I said, you know, the sport has also left us. It's not just with its constant cloying to traditionalism and conservatism that rubs us the wrong way. As you point out, Tavis, they don't recruit us no more.
That's right.
They would rather go to the Dominican. They would rather go to Central America to recruit players. They're not going to East LA. They're not going to Harlem. They're not going to find Black American kids who can play.
Yeah, nope. It is quite the story. We could spend hours just talking about the backstory to baseball. Say nothing on these playoffs right about now. I'm just cracking up because you never know, and I'm not surprised by this, but it is funny to me that a guy like Elie Mystal, who we see talking about the Supreme Court, like knows this much stuff about baseball. But it reminds me, Elie, of a teacher I had in high school who I'll never forget. Mr. Beal. Mr. Beal said, Tavis, one of the ways that I want you to work on distinguishing yourself beyond high school into your future, because you got a bright future. He used to always tell me, and I just love the faith that he had in the future that I couldn't even see at that moment. He said, you need to make yourself an expert in something other than whatever you're going to be an expert in. I said, say that again. Make yourself an expert in something other than what you are going to be an expert in. In other words, make yourself far more well-rounded, far more rounded than the one thing that you spend all your time studying. Never forgot that. And so the people that I find most fascinating are people who can talk about things even beyond what their true expertise is. I just find that fascinating, and so I digress on that point. All right, Ellie, let's get to the Supreme Court. The cover story for the Nation magazine's November issue is the Supreme Court versus democracy. How do we get to a space how do we get to a place where a title like that it can even be real, can resonate in meaningful ways?
Well, I would say it's all John Roberts' fault.
Yeah.
Right. John Roberts, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, has been opposed to equality in democracy for his entire career. And we saw that play out last week in horrifying fashion in a case about the Voting Rights Act, and a case where Roberts and the other conservatives are likely to overturn a key provision of the Voting Rights Act. This is nothing new for Roberts. People don't understand. Roberts started his career as a Reagan administration lawyer arguing against the expansion of the Voting Rights Act. Right now, he lost that because the Voting Rights Act used to be so popular that even Republicans had to vote for it. Roberts lost that fight when he was a young lawyer, but he has won that fight again and again and again over his 20 years on the Supreme Court. Tavis, this 2025 marks John Roberts' 20th year as Chief Justice. And if you chart the regression of voting rights, especially in the Black community, that graph starts going down 20 years ago because John Roberts comes to power. He has been the biggest enemy Black people have faced in equality and voting rights in this country since Chief Justice Roger Taney, who authored the Dred Scott decision and basically started the Civil War. He is on that level of maliciousness towards the Black community and our rights, and he ain't going anywhere anytime soon.
I know you're comparing, in this moment at least, you're comparing Chief Justices, Roberts, Taney, etc., but he can't be any worse to your mind than Clarence Thomas has been to Black rights, has he?
Well, see, the thing about Thomas is that let me put it like this. I try to not get overly angry at Thomas just because he's black, right? Thomas wants to be right. I try to treat him as a white man, and like as a white man, if we think of him as that way, then he is just as extremist as a Sam Alito, as some other people, but he hasn't always had a lot of power. He's kind of been on the edges, on the fringes. Yes, he has crazy, horrible ideas, but they're fringe, crazy, horrible ideas. Fringe ideas that are getting more and more accepted as he hangs on the court. But he's never had the power that Roberts has had to do what Roberts has done to us, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's where I make the distinction. Obviously, Clarence Thomas is a huge problem, and the fact that he is sitting in Thurgood Marshall's seat.
Yeah.
The fact that he is the only black man on the Supreme Court. The fact that you might have expected him to help more than hurt, and he has hurt far more than he's ever been willing to help.
Yeah.
That obviously will go down on his historical record. Clarence Thomas is about to become, and this is why I don't believe he'll retire until at least 2028. If he hangs on to 2028, he will be the longest serving Supreme Court justice in American history.
Yeah. Nope. You're right about that.
And that is, and his legacy is something that black people will be fighting against for the next 30 years.
Yep.
So I'm not defending him in any way, but I'm remembering who has the power, and Roberts is the one with the power.
I noted on this program, Elie, the other day when the Supreme Court was hearing oral arguments on Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. I woke up that morning and realized in my reading that day was Clarence Thomas's 34th anniversary on the court. So here they are hearing this case about voting rights and preparing to gut voting rights as we know it. Clarence Thomas, again, that day celebrating his 34th anniversary on the court as they heard that particular case, which just sort of rubbed me all kind of raw. But I take your point that if he sticks around a couple more years, he will be the longest serving justice in the history of this particular country. I want to come back to Thomas in just a second here, but before I push forward, let me go back to Roberts, and that's where you started your commentary. There was a time, and frankly, there were times, plural, there have been moments where John Roberts has been public, in fact. To the extent that justices speak publicly, but when they go on their summer recess, oftentimes they go to these conferences and they appear here or there, as you well know, and they make public pronouncements. They're doing a lot more of that now, I think, than they used to do, if my read of history is correct. But Roberts, from time to time, has made it clear in ways that I thought at one point might have been believable that he really wanted to retain the integrity of the court, that he really was concerned about the way in which the polls indicate that we have lost practically all respect for that particular branch of government. It was the last branch hanging on for some time that we did respect still. We lost respect for the executive branch. We've lost all respect for the legislative branch. It was the judicial branch that we still had some faith, some confidence in. And I've listened to his speeches here and there over the years where I thought he was rather serious about trying to rebuild our trust in that institution of government. And yet now, I don't believe any of that.
Yeah, no, he understands that the court needs a sense of legitimacy because the court does not have an army, that's the executive branch, and it doesn't have the power of the purse. It doesn't have taxation authority, that's the legislative branch, right? So the court has no way to enforce its rulings other than everybody agreeing to enforce them, everybody agreeing that the rulings are good, right? And so you can't wield that power without some sense of legitimacy, and that's why Roberts will talk the talk of trying to protect the court's legitimacy. But the thing is, Roberts also wants to win.
Yeah.
Roberts also wants the outcomes that Roberts wants, right? He also wants the Republican agenda to prevail. And I think what's happened to him over his career is that he realizes that he has the votes to do whatever he wants. Roberts realizes that he's unchecked. Roberts realizes that it doesn't matter. Roberts is in the Fire Festival villain arc of his career where he's like, let's just do it and be legends. All right. Like he is on fleek, as the kids used to say, because there is no power to check him now, not even Trump. And this is where people get it very twisted, where everybody wants to say like, oh, the Supreme Court is just doing Trump's bidding. Yes, they are. But why? Why are they doing Trump's bidding? And the reason why is that Roberts understands he's going to outlive Trump. He's going to be there when Trump is long gone. The only thing that could happen bad for Roberts right now with his 6'3" permanent majority on the Supreme Court is for Trump to be the one who ignores the court's ruling, for Trump to be the one who refuses to enforce a Supreme Court decision. That's the only thing that can hurt Roberts. Because if Trump does it, well, then you can expect every president going forward to just ignore that. That's when his legitimacy goes into the toilet, right? So how do you deal with that if you're John Roberts? Well, you give Trump everything that he wants. You never give Trump an opportunity or a reason to ignore your orders because your orders are doing exactly what he wants. That way, Trump never takes power away from the Supreme Court. And eventually, 2028, perhaps, 2032, perhaps, Trump goes away and you still have all that power that you accrued under his administration.
I'm not saying you're wrong, Elie, but that is some sinister thinking, though. You will acknowledge that.
I honestly, Tavis, I just try to think like a Republican.
This is why I love Elie Mystal. All right, so tell me then how I should read this, because I've talked to a number of legal scholars on this program with some regularity. I'm thinking Maya Wiley, I'm thinking Connie Rice. There are others we've had on this program, and now we're talking to Elie Mystal, Chief Justice Correspondent for The Nation magazine. So how do I read then that, and I'm just a layperson here, but it seems to me, and to this audience, I think, that it is the federal courts that are doing what they can to save democracy, or this experiment in democracy as we know it. And to your point, John Roberts and SCOTUS giving Trump everything he wants. How do I read that divide?
The lower courts are the only line of defense right now. The lower courts and lower court judges from both parties. It must be said that judges who have been appointed by Republican presidents, not necessarily Trump judges, although a couple of them, but certainly judges that were appointed by any of the Bush boys, have stood up to Trump just as well as judges appointed by Biden and Obama. The problem is that they're lower court judges. There was a whole New York Times story recently about how the lower courts feel like they are at war with the Supreme Court because the Supreme Court won't let them do their jobs. The Supreme Court has kind of reinterpreted the Constitution. The Constitution says, the judicial power of the United States shall be contained in the Supreme Court and any inferior courts Congress decides to make, right? So like every court below the Supreme Court is created by Congress. The Supreme Court is created by the Constitution. The Supreme Court has interpreted that as the Supreme Court is the only court that matters. The Supreme Court has interpreted that as these lower court decisions, we don't have to care about them at all. We're the only one. We are, and to use a Bushian terms, we are the decider. We are the ones who get to make the rules. And these lower court people are just throwing up some suggestions. And so the way that to interpret what's happening is that a MAGA court, a conservative court, a reactionary court has decided how they want the law to go. Yeah. And there's nothing the lower courts can do to stop them. There's nothing the inferior courts can do to stop them. So every time there's a lower court decision that goes against Trump, the Supreme Court is right there on the shadow docket, on the emergency docket, with rapidity and alacrity to overturn them and clear the way, plow the road for Donald Trump and his administration and his racist administration. There was a case, in LA about racial profiling, right? Where the court on the shadow docket, not even after a full hearing, where Brett Kavanaugh decided that racial profiling was okay. He literally called racial profiling, quote, common sense. Yeah. Like that's where this Supreme Court is, and there's nothing a lower court or, quite frankly, a legislature can do as long as these reactionary, mostly racist conservatives hold power.
The Nation magazine's cover story is called "The Supreme Court versus Democracy." When we come forward, I'll let Elie take us straightway inside the issue that breaks down the most dangerous cases the Supreme Court has on its docket this year. You're listening, and I'm glad about it, to Elie Mystal right now on Tavis Smiley.
Helping to stretch your moral and political imagination. This is Tavis Smiley.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Democrats are holding firm on health care demands as the government shutdown enters another week.
Hospitals, nursing homes, and community-based health centers are closing, and now they refuse to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits.
During an appearance on ABC's This Week, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffrey says action is needed with the funding lapse now the third longest in modern history. The The trial begins for ex-deputy Sean Grayson, charged with murdering Sonia Massey in her Illinois home after she called 911. Grayson claims self-defense, but body cam footage shows Massey was unarmed. Protesters are expected outside the Peoria courthouse. And NFL Pro Bowl running back Doug Martin has died at 36. The former Buccaneer star, known as the Muscle Hamster, passed away over the weekend. His family says the cause of death is unconfirmed and has asked for privacy. Get BIN News now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Escape the confines of the city for the expansive beauty of the Santa Ynez Valley with a short 2-hour drive up the coast. Let Chumash Casino Resort be your destination getaway. Welcome to freedom. Go to chumashcasino.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Rams reminded everybody that they are a legitimate contender in the NFC. They went over to London and delivered a 35-7 beatdown over Jacksonville Sunday morning. 5 touchdown passes for Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford, 3 to wide receiver Devontae Adams. The Rams are 5-2. They're in the first place tied with San Francisco in the NFC West. The Chargers forgot to bring their defense to SoFi Stadium. They lost to Indianapolis 34-24. The 4-3 Chargers gave up 401 yards in total offense. Colts running back Jonathan Taylor had 3 rushing touchdowns. The Dodgers still don't know who they're going to play in the World Series. Seattle and Toronto will meet up for a decisive Game 7 tonight in the American League Championship Series. Toronto won Game 6 last night 6-2. First pitch tonight at 5 o'clock on Fox Sports. The World Series starts on Friday. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Think It Up is an initiative to activate student-powered, teacher-led learning projects. Students and teachers, how can you spark great learning experiences in your classrooms today? Join at thinkitup.org.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know? The United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time. Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
It's Cybersecurity Awareness Month. LifeLock is here with tips to help protect your identity. Use strong passwords, set up multi-factor authentication, report scams, and update your software. And for comprehensive identity protection, LifeLock is your best choice. LifeLock alerts you to suspicious uses of your personal information and fixes identity theft, guaranteed, or your money back. Start your protection today with a 30-day free trial at LifeLock.com. Use promo code NEWS. Terms apply.
Stuck in a job that just isn't getting it done? Maybe it's time to go for IT. Whether you're just starting out, switching careers, or a military veteran ready for change, My Computer Career can help you launch a rewarding career in IT in months. No prior experience needed. Why spend years getting a traditional degree when your future in IT can start right now? Take the free career evaluation at mycomputercareer.edu today. Your most powerful upgrade? Your career. Go for it. Go for IT. Financial aid is available to those who qualify, including VA benefits.
With Robinhood, not only can you trade individual stocks and ETFs, you can also seamlessly buy and sell crypto at low costs. Trade all in one place. Get started now on Robinhood. Trading crypto involves significant risk. Crypto trading is offered through an account with Robinhood Crypto LLC. Robinhood Crypto is licensed to engage in virtual currency business activity by the New York State Department of Financial Services. Crypto held through Robinhood Crypto is not FDIC insured or SIPC protected. Investing involves risk, including loss of principal. Securities trading is offered through an account with Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, a registered broker-dealer.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in, but we're okay with that. You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
You are indeed with the New York Times bestselling author Elie Mystal, who happens to be also the justice correspondent for The Nation magazine, has a pretty amazing podcast of his own, but I'm honored that he gave us an hour to commence today's program talking about the November cover story for The Nation magazine. It's called The Supreme Court versus Democracy, the Supreme Court versus democracy. So by any other definition or any other way of framing this, Elie, everywhere that I have read about this current term, people are defining it as a Trump term. Put another way, that practically every case on the docket has some connection to Donald Trump. Before I ask you to take us inside the docket or onto the docket, tell me how we read that. That this is a bit unprecedented itself, that practically every case they're hearing has some connection to the Trump administration.
Yeah, Tavis, when I started this career way back when I no longer wanted to be a lawyer, one of the things that drew me to this journalism was that the Supreme Court was never apolitical. I was never one of these fools who thought the Supreme Court was a non-political institution, but they did politics a different way, right? Like some of the cases, some of the issues would split along liberal conservatives lines, to be sure, but split in weird ways, split in ways that you couldn't necessarily track onto whatever the latest thing was happening in Congress, or the latest thing coming out of the president's mouth. That's just no longer true. That job that I started, 20 years ago, that doesn't exist anymore, because now all the Supreme Court is the enforcement wing of the Republican Party, right? It's the strong arm of the Republican Party. It is there to do by judicial fiat what Republicans cannot win at the ballot box, right? Because if they brought some of these issues to the voters in a referendum, or even as their main party platform, they would mostly lose. They would lose nationally, and they would lose in most states. So they use the Supreme Court to do the anti-democratic things that they can't otherwise do. And that takes us right into some of the key cases this term, right? They're doing everything they can right now to eradicate the LGBTQ community, right? Like that is chief on the docket. Thomas previewed this a couple of years ago when they overturned Roe v. Wade, that they were coming for gays next, and that day is here, and that's what's happening on this term. There was already a case about gay conversion therapy with a religious person arguing that she had a First Amendment right to practice conversion therapy under the free exercise of religion, but also under free speech, which was wild because she was a licensed professional by the state of Colorado, right? Now, if you believe in conversion therapy, by all means, get yourself a sandwich board, hop out on the street and preach conversion therapy, right? If you believe in conversion therapy and you're a deacon or you're a priest, that is absolutely fine. You have every right to do so. If you're a licensed medical professional, you are supposed to practice licensed medically agreed upon practices and strategies, right? We do that across the board, right? You can believe whatever you want to believe about intervention and bleach, but damn if you're going to prescribe it, right? That's not how it's supposed to work. Yeah. She argues that's how it's supposed to work, and the Supreme Court is absolutely going to agree. There's a huge case about trans athletes. And when we talk about the trans issue, everybody wants to focus on the trans woman playing women's sports and having an unfair physical advantage. And no matter how much science and facts I can explain about hormone therapy and all this stuff, nobody's going to listen to me. Like I understand that there are people who are resistant to the facts on this issue, but I put this to you. The law in question is coming out of Idaho that bans trans women from competing in girls' high school sports. The law has two factors. One, yes, trans women can't compete. Two, second part of the law, if a rival athlete questions the gender of any girl on the team, that girl has to submit herself to an invasive gynecological examination to determine her gender. If she just doesn't look girly enough, they can question and force her into a medical exam. That law does not go for boys. So if I question whether or not that boy is really a boy, he doesn't have to take an exam, a medical exam, to determine his gender, right? That's a straight up violation of equal protection. That is a law that affects girls and doesn't affect boys. That should be a straight up violation. And I refuse to believe that people can't understand that a law that forces, again, teenage girls to drop their drawers at the request of a rival, I cannot see how that protects girl athletes in sport. Like, I can't see how people can make that argument. But it's the argument that the Supreme Court's going to make this term.
I got it. I'm with you on the equal protection issue. And let me circle, that said, we agree on equal protection. Let me circle back to the issue of fundamental fairness, because I think that's where Americans, that's the issue on which Americans are wrestling with. Even people like Gavin Newsom have come out on this issue in ways that may surprise people who are really to the left ideologically. So even Gavin, again, has made his point about this. But it comes down to this issue of fundamental fairness, and that's why that Donald Trump commercial was so devastating against Kamala Harris. You know the one I'm talking about, of course. That commercial was so devastating in the waning days of the campaign, because people look at this as a fundamental fairness issue. So I hear equal protection, but talk about the fundamental fairness part of this that I think resonates with most Americans, not equal protection.
Right. I'm also I understand the fairness argument. I'm just on the position that we should be fair to trans women as well, trans people as well.
Right.
So, for instance, 2% of people are born intersex, right? 2% of people, we used to call that hermaphrodite, right?
Right.
2% of people are that way. What sport should they play? Do you have a great answer? Because I don't. Right? Like, what 2%? What sport are they allowed to play?
Right.
And I would argue with whatever team they want is the only acceptable answer, right? So what do we do with that? The IOC, the Olympic Organizing Committee, and the NCAA has rules about hormone therapy, that if you are a trans person, you have to take hormone blockers in order to compete in girls' sports. Idaho and other states like it have completely thrown out those rules and had a complete ban on the practice, right? So if you can compete in the Olympics if you take hormones, but you can't run track at Boise State that doesn't make sense. So my issue with the fairness argument that we're not being fair to women athletes if they have to compete with men.
Yeah.
They're not competing with men. They're competing with trans women who have taken the appropriate drugs to be allowed to compete according to the Olympics. Surely that's enough. And if it's not enough, my last kind of defense or answer is this. If that's not enough for you, what the hell is going to stop the government from other forms of discrimination against people who are different? Like, if we can't trust science, on this, then we are basically just trusting whatever pisses off Sean Hannity tomorrow morning. And that's not a world, that's not a sporting environment that I want to live in.
No, I hear you. As I said earlier, I hear you on equal protection. I think it's that fundamental fairness issue that we still have to navigate, but I take your point. When we come forward, I want to circle to voting rights that Elie sort of teed up earlier. I want to circle back to birthright citizenship. Again, practically every case on the docket has some connection to the Trump administration's agenda. Make that the Project 2025 agenda. More with Elie when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
From California to the Carolinas, everybody's listening to Tavis. More when we come forward.
Tavis Smiley with a final word here about the upcoming Left Coast Forum on Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech. As you know by now, our major keynoters include Professor Richard Wolff and Dr. Cornel West. LA Mayor Karen Bass will be there as well. But listen to some of these plenaries: fighting for black students and educational equity, resilience under Trumpism, how to stay sane under fascism, the battle for democracy, what's at stake in 2026, healthcare under attack, fighting Trump's cuts, and building patient power. From seed to system, building a local food economy in South LA, theater as a force for change, voices from Palestine. The Constitution is not self-reinforcing. Racism on the left, building communities of care, federal changes and their impact on healthcare in LA County, Committee for the First Amendment, and more. The Left Coast Forum is brought to you by the LA Progressive, the Empowerment Congress, Community Coalition, Partnership for Growth LA, Southwest Voter Registration Education Project, LA Care Health Plan, United Teachers Los Angeles, Black Progressive Action Coalition, St. John's Community Health, the National Lawyers Guild, the Weingart Foundation, and more. Space is limited, so if I were you, I'd register right now at KBLA1580.com. That's KBLA1580.com. Your voice matters, your presence matters. We'll see you there.
My mom has decided to learn to paint, and she's good.
My dad's now into creative cuisine, and I've already put on 6 pounds.
Learning new things comes with age.
My mom, she started forgetting my name and what we're talking about.
Forgetting well-known things doesn't. Memory loss may be a sign of Alzheimer's disease. Early detection gives you and your loved one time to plan for the future. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up.
Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your Senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
He's a paradigm pioneer
and the top-rated African-American talk show host in the nation, according to Talkers Magazine. You're tapped in with Tavis Smiley right now.
Tavis Smiley and Elie Mystal. I am no legal expert, as my friend Elie is, and yet it didn't take much for me listening to those oral arguments in the Supreme Court days ago about the Voting Rights Act and Section 2 specifically, to believe, as Elie believes, and so he writes in The Nation with a piece titled, "The Supreme Court left no doubt it will gut the Voting Rights Act." Take it away, Elie.
Yeah, so what's at issue in this case is Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. Louisiana drew, after the 2020 census, drew a map with 5 majority white districts and 1 majority minority district. Now, that might seem like it's okay for people with a coastal bias who don't know anything about Louisiana, but in fact, white people only make up 56% of the population of Louisiana. Louisiana is 31% black. Now, simple math tells you that if you're 30% of the population, you should probably have 30% of the congressional seats, which means there should be 2 minority districts. And so Louisiana was sued. The court forced them, the lower courts forced Louisiana to draw a second map with 2 majority minority districts under the Voting Rights Act, under Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. That was challenged by white folks. White folks challenged the two district map, saying that it hurt their constitutional rights. So literally the case in front of the support was whether or not white people had a constitutional right to be overrepresented. Right? Black people are not asking for more than our fair share. We are asking for exactly what we deserve. Nothing more, but certainly nothing less. It is white folks who are asking to be overrepresented. And at the Supreme Court, the court most likely said fine. The legal technical jargon here was a question of intent. The reason why Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act is so powerful is because it only looks at racist outcomes, right? It doesn't look at racist intent. So the state might say, I don't have a racist bone in my body, right? The state might say, I got tons of black friends. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what your stated intent is. Janae Nelson, who argued the case on behalf of black people for the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, she said Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act requires neither a confession nor an admission by white people about their racism, right? They don't have to self-register. All we have to do is look at the outcome. And if the outcome is racist, then Section 2 is allowed to operate. That is the fundamental thing that the court's going to take away when this case gets decided in June. Yeah. They're going to say that using Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act without a showing of intent to discriminate is no longer constitutional. That will gut Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act because, Tavis, as I'm sure you know, and I'm sure most of your listeners know, white people rarely admit to their racism, right? Like Trump does sometimes, and some of the MAGA comedians do sometimes, but for the most part, white people try to pretend that they're not being racist at all when they're doing the racism, right? And so when you take away Section 2's outcome-based analysis and replace it with an intent, with a need to prove intent, well, guess what? You can almost never prove intent because white people almost never admit to what they're doing.
Which leads me to one of my two exit questions when we come forward in our remaining moments with Elie Mystal. The first is, what next? What do we do? I'm talking now inside of a legal framework. When the Voting Rights Act has no teeth in it, there's nothing left, when there's no there, what do we do? Number one. And number two, we'll talk about birthright citizenship before we close this conversation with Elie Mystal of The Nation magazine. The cover story is called Supreme Court versus Democracy. We're talking about it right now on Tavis Smiley.
This is getting good. Yeah, man. Tavis Smiley continues when we come forward. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you, when we fight, we win. The Youth Justice Coalition is challenging America's addiction to incarceration and discrimination. YJC works to dismantle policies leading to mass incarceration, law enforcement violence, and the school-to-prison pipeline. Their approach, transformative justice, community intervention, free LA high school, legal defense, and system monitoring. YJC promotes safety without relying on prisons. Their goal, prevent system contact and help people exit the system through direct action, advocacy, and education. Want to get involved or need help? Call 323-235-4243. That's 323-235-4243. Join YJC in creating change. When we fight, we win. KBLA Talk 1580, your voice for justice. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada, member FDIC.
Do you owe $10,000 or more in credit card debt or personal loans? With credit card debt at all-time highs, Debt Relief Advocates is urgently notifying consumers of debt relief now being made available, designed to aid consumers with out-of-control credit card debt. Those who qualify and enroll for this relief program will only have to pay back a fraction of what they owe. This is not bankruptcy or a debt consolidation loan. This is a relief program that credit card companies would rather you not know about, as it ends your debt nightmare Medicare and saves you lots of money. Consumers owing at least $10,000 in credit card debt or personal loans can now take advantage of this debt relief as the cost of living skyrockets. Debt Relief Advocates has established a relief hotline for you to call to learn what debt reduction you may qualify for, so don't wait. For this free information, call the Relief Hotline at 800-515-4493. 800-515-4493. 800-515-4493.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Elie Mystal. So, Elie, I've got scarcely 4 minutes left here. We started this hour talking about baseball. I've got 4 minutes and 3 questions I want to ask. Let's see if we can do a quick triple play. You with me?
I'm with you.
All right, voting rights. If they gut it, what next? Inside of a legal framework, what do we do?
Well, the Congress needs to restore the Voting Rights Act. There was a move to do that in 2021 that was scuttled by Manchin and Sinema. If the Democrats are ever allowed to hold power again, you're going to need to completely restore and revamp the Voting Rights Act to overcome John Roberts in the Supreme Court.
Second issue, birthright citizenship. I've talked to a number of people. Jeffrey Toobin was on the other day, and I'm getting different opinions on whether or not they're going to give him what he wants, Trump, what he wants on birthright citizenship. Your take?
I think that might be the only case that he loses. I think that I think they're going to go to federalism here. They're going to make it so that Trump can't create a system where we have different citizenship rights in different states. Because remember, if they give him birthright citizenship, that doesn't automatically mean that every state will follow along. So you'll have a situation where Texas says that you don't have birthright citizenship, and California and New York say that you do. And you know what? We tried that before. That's called before the Civil War. That's called black people have no rights that a white man is bound to respect, right? And that doesn't end well.
Yeah.
So I don't think the Supreme Court is going to let Trump take us back to antebellum America. They could, but I think he's going to lose that 5-4.
We turn the play at third. We turn the play at second. Let's see if we can do it at first base. I close by quoting from Elie's piece in The Nation magazine. Republicans may think they can achieve salvation through Christ, but they know they can achieve victory through the courts. Republican voters do not vote for primary candidates who don't focus on the courts, and that is the key reason they've been able to reshape this branch of government in their image. In contrast, Democrats have dropped the ball on this issue. Democratic voters regularly vote for senators and even presidents who do not care about the courts and are unwilling to challenge their authority. Is that how we got in this mess?
That is 100% how we got here, and it is still the case. There has yet to be a Democratic candidate that has lost a primary because they were weak on the courts. There is yet to be a Democratic candidate that has lost a primary because they didn't have a solution to the conservative takeover of the courts. We let Democrats slide on this. Republicans never do. And it's why we're fighting an asymmetric war when it comes to Supreme Court control. Republicans understand that they can't have what they want because, again, as I said at the open, what they want is unpopular. They understand they can't have what they want unless they have the anti-democratic institution that is the Supreme Court working for them behind the scenes. Democrats think that all we got to do is elect Barack Obama, make Hakeem Jeffries the leader, and everything will work out. And it doesn't work that way, and Democrats still haven't gotten the memo.
There's your triple play. Elie Mystal, justice correspondent for The Nation magazine. The piece that we've been discussing for the better part of this hour in The Nation is called The Supreme Court versus Democracy, their cover story for the month of November. Elie, good to have you on as always. Thanks for your insights. I'll be watching tonight as you will to see who's going to take on the Dodgers, and all I'll close by saying is, go Dodgers. Thank you, Elie.
Thanks so much for having me, Tavis. Have a great one.
It's always an honor to have you on. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward. We'll start our second hour. It's a Monday with Dr. Cornel West. Stay tuned.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Democrats are holding firm on health care demands as the government shutdown enters another week.
Hospitals, nursing homes, and community-based health centers are closing, and now they refuse to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits.
During an appearance on ABC's This Week, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries says action is needed with the funding lapse now the third longest in modern history. The trial begins for ex-deputy Sean Grayson, charged with murdering Sonia Massey in her Illinois home after she called 911. Grayson claims self-defense, but body cam footage shows Massey was unarmed. Protesters are expected outside the Peoria courthouse. And NFL Pro Bowl running back Doug Martin has died at 36. The former Buccaneer star, known as the Muscle Hamster, passed away over the weekend. His family says the cause of death is unconfirmed and has asked for privacy. Get BIN News now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Escape the confines of the city for the expansive beauty of the Santa Ynez Valley with a short 2-hour drive up the coast. Let Chumash Casino Resort be your destination getaway. Welcome to freedom. Go to chumashcasino.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Rams reminded everybody that they are a legitimate contender in the NFC. They went over to London and delivered a 35-7 beatdown over Jacksonville Sunday morning. 5 touchdown passes for Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford, 3 to wide receiver Devontae Adams. The Rams are 5-2. They're in the first place tied with San Francisco in the NFC West. The Chargers forgot to bring their defense to SoFi Stadium. They lost to Indianapolis 34-24. The 4-3 Chargers gave up 401 yards in total offense. Colts running back Jonathan Taylor had 3 rushing touchdowns. The Dodgers still don't know who they're going to play in the World Series. Seattle and Toronto will meet up for a decisive Game 7 tonight in the American League Championship Series. Toronto won Game 6 last night 6-2. First pitch tonight at 5 o'clock on Fox Sports. The World Series starts on Friday. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Tavis Smiley with a final word here about the upcoming Left Coast Forum on Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech. As you know by now, our major keynoters include Professor Richard Wolff and Dr. Cornel West. LA Mayor Karen Bass will be there as well. But listen to some of these plenaries: fighting for black students and educational equity, resilience under Trumpism, how to stay sane under fascism, the battle for democracy, what's at stake in 2026, healthcare under